y'all. Happy Wine Wednesday.
Happy Wine Wednesday, everybody. As you guys can all see, we have an amazing guest today, Connie Shih. We are so excited to introduce her and tell you a little bit about her background. We'll get into that after we do the wine. Awesome. So, shocker, surprise, surprise, we are drinking a French Chardonnay today. And I say that because it's Michelle's new obsession. When was it? Were you at the Women's Summit in New York?
Yeah. So I was in a conference in New York with two of the advisors that I work with. And when we went out to dinner, they introduced me to French Chardonnay. And I think I was telling everyone last week that I always felt like when I heard Chardonnay, I would just think it's like my grandma's wine. And I would always like steer away from it. And then they had a bottle of French Chardonnay. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, Chardonnay literally gets the worst rap in the game, y'all. Like, because in the US, largely it's mass produced and it's trash. But in reality, it's one of the most versatile grapes. Like, it's what makes champagne in 1/3 of the cases. Also, like Burgundy, which is what we're drinking today, is one of the most beautiful wine regions that exists. And it's like if you care for it correctly and make it correctly, it can be so beautiful. And then we all know, like, I'm obsessed with French wine just in general. So we have a really special one today. We're drinking a Burgundy. 20% of it is done in new oak. So a lot of it's going to be in neutral oak, which means I'm going to like it better. I don't know if that means you're going to like it better, but I generally prefer neutral oak or stainless steel versus new oak. That's really how we do it more so in the new world. And I prefer old world wine. This one is mineral, floral, really beautiful, super amazing price point for a Burgundy. I think it's under 20, which is like, wow, like that doesn't happen. And when it comes to Burgundy, if it's something that you guys are exploring, highly recommend you pay really close attention to the bottles that you like and the soil that they were in and where they were from, because it's a really, really versatile style of making wine. So even me, someone who's obsessed with Burgundy, like I literally have a textbook behind me that's like massive about just Burgundy wines. And I still have a hard time discerning which Burgundies I like and which ones I don't. But highly recommend this bottle. It's Domaine Chazon Vierclise. It's a 2019 vintage, and you can pick it up for a really affordable price point. So highly recommend you guys do that. But yeah, let's get into our rose and thorn. Mish, we'll start with you and then we'll get to Connie.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Rose. So I guess I had a great Thanksgiving with my family. And as you all know, I'm in New York. So we did go to the Thanksgiving Day parade. And I believe I was telling you guys that my family and I actually scoped out this spot in Central Park. And there's like a little bench under a bunch of trees. And last year we went there because we were trying to get on the street. We just couldn't because it was just like mass chaos. And we were like, let's just like stay back here and see if we could see it. And we saw it perfectly. It was like a perfect view. And it's actually behind where all of like the NYPD, they have like a certain section where all their families stand, and where it's like kind of like on the corner turning from Columbus Circle. I shouldn't say this because I'm giving my spot away, but hopefully next year just save me a spot if you do go there. But all the performers will stop in that spot and perform for their families. So it was just perfect. So we did that, and then I actually hosted for my first time, which was fun. And then I went down to Maryland to see some of my other family. So that was my rose. And then and thorn, she got a little cold like on Sunday coming back from Maryland. I think I was just like run down, but I'm feeling so much better now.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you. I know we were chatting yesterday that you weren't feeling very well. You're better now?
Yeah, I am better. Thank you.
Okay.
It was just like a 2-day thing. So
good.
We don't have time to be sick.
Okay.
In our lives, right?
All right, Connie. Well, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you. You know what? I know I said that I was going to wait to introduce you until later, but I just, I wanted to introduce you now because you're so great. I met Connie, I don't know, maybe like several months ago.
Oh, yeah.
and was just immediately drawn to her as a person, as a human. I just think that she's fantastic. She's so impressive. I cannot wait for her to share her journey with you guys. She has so much valuable input and advice that she can provide for you guys. And I was just impressed with her story and who she was. And I liked her. And I thought she would be an amazing addition to the podcast today. So I'm excited to share her with you guys. We have a tradition on here called the Rose and Thorn, where we talk about the low and the high points of our week. I know last week is kind of a cheat because it was Thanksgiving, but if you wanted to share your Rose and your Thorn from last week.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that intro. I'm like, I hope I can live up to those nice words.
You're amazing.
Thank you. I think the same of you. Okay, Rose and Thorn. Rose, last week we had family flying in from California. And so I got to play with my 11-year-old nephew and see how he's grown. And it's just like, it reminds me of, when I was his age and the struggles they have to go through, and like not really having the autonomy of being an adult and still, wanting your own way. So I was trying to support him. I was trying to do arts and crafts with him, trying to do sports with him. I was trying to be a cool aunt. So that was fun. And then Thorn, I think I am a bit of a perfectionist with regard to everything, work and otherwise.
I relate.
I was like, I wish I was perfect. Gosh, so I think that I get stressed out about people traveling in. I want to make sure it's clean. I want to make sure the food's right. And it's this is supposed to be relaxing. This is a holiday. And I think I struggle with that. So that would probably be my Thorn.
Oh my God, I can relate. I can too. So hard. I feel like you're talking to fellow perfectionists, and I feel as though I love hosting, but sometimes I'm the stress of it all. It's almost better just to go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. Let someone else do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You guys handle all of my crazy neuroses that I can't seem to quiet with regard to what you guys think about the house. If you're comfortable, if you have all the things. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
Yeah.
Gosh,
my rose is that I am getting ready to embark on the trip of a lifetime. First stopping in New York to see Mish, which I'm super excited about. I haven't been to NYC since 2016, which is insane because it's one of my favorite cities. And then I'm going to London for 3.5 weeks, which I'm super excited about. And then my Thorn is, okay, Thanksgiving is the best because you get to be with your family and you get to eat and you get to do all that. But we traveled last week and it's really difficult to make that trip and do all the things with the family while getting everything ready to embark on the journey that I'm going on next month. So I was feeling a little bit bajiggity and overwhelmed over the weekend because there's so much to be done. And I wasn't as present on Thanksgiving as I wanted to be because I was so worried about all the other things that I needed to get done. So kind of in the same perfectionist vein, but I learned from it and I won't be doing that next year. Awesome. Well, Mia, she wanted to introduce the topic and then we'll start digging into Connie and everything that she's about. So excited.
I know, me too. And I want to let Connie, share her story and introduce herself. And we're so excited, like Jenny said, to have you on the podcast today. Just from the few minutes that I've known you, it seems like you're an amazing person and have so much to offer and a lot of advice to give us and to empower women. And today we're going to be talking about serial entrepreneurship and how Connie has reinvented herself, over the years from that. So if you want to, start and give our listeners, just a brief overview of your journey and the ventures you've been involved in.
Totally. Yeah, happy to do that. So I'm Connie Shih. I guess I'm a founder. I'm an entrepreneur. I've wanted to be an entrepreneur for a long time, and I figured the best way to do that was through sales. So the first job I got was, how brief is this? Because I can give you the whole spiel, or is that?
No, get into it.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Inquiring minds.
Okay. All right. So I read all these books in my junior year of college. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was, to be honest. I didn't take a single business class, and nobody in my family was a founder. But I remember I was bored one day in between classes, and I was at the student union, there was a bookstore, and I was just perusing through. And I went to the business section, which was next to the entrepreneurship section. I was just bored. And so I picked out a few books. And they were founder stories, like memoirs, if you will. And I remember I read all the ones by Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Mobile. And he talked about his whole journey and how like there were so many successes and failures. And he started, I think, in his basement as like, I think he was a child, just like selling magazines or CDs or something. And the idea was to create something from nothing. And I just thought that was so cool. It was like magic, like something out of thin air, and to get all these people to buy into your idea and create positive change through the world. And maybe I was idealistic, but I thought that was amazing, and I needed to do that. And in all these books that I read, the through line was you have to be good at sales. You have to be able to like talk to people and sell yourself, not only yourself, but your ideas, and obviously like your business. And what about investors? And you have to be able to communicate properly. And I was like, okay, what is sales? And so, so I Googled like sales in Maryland, and so I found it was like over the summer, I believe, or majority in the summer, there was like a local printing company, and it was like a mom and pop shop. And they were selling printing services, so like business cards, pamphlets, whatever you need, like not even mass printed, just like small businesses. And so they needed salespeople to go door to door and ask, hey, do you want a free quote on your business cards? If you like the quote, I will I'll give you like a free sample. If you like that, then do you want to like purchase our services? And so it was so hard to get rejected to your face in your face all day, every day in the hot summer, door to door. I think I was like 20 at the time, or 21, but it was a big learning experience. Obviously it didn't pay a lot, nor did it look great on my resume, but I think it was the best experience. And like learning to convey yourself and to be confident in what you have to say, which I think maybe all young people need to have a stint as a salesperson. One day I was cold walking, as they called it, and I knocked on the door of a large financial firm, which I didn't know what that was. And I was like, do you want to buy my business cards? I'm selling printing services. I can offer you a free quote. Are you interested? And the guy who answered the door was absolutely not interested. And he's like, we already have people who do that. But have you thought about your career, and do you know what financial advising is? And I was like, I do not. I do not. And he said, it's kind of like what you're doing, but it's on like a larger level. You have maybe more accounts of higher value. It's kind of like what you're doing, conveying something to clients, getting more clients, and managing a book of business. You have a whole career. I think you should absolutely get into wealth management. And so I started I Googled financial advising firms in Maryland, and I would go, I didn't know the difference. I don't know. So I went to all of the firms. I didn't know the difference, high end, low end, and I would bring my business cards. And then I would also bring my resume, and I would ask, hey, do you want a free quote on your business cards? No, inevitably no. I would like to talk to your managing director. I'm currently interviewing firms in the area. I am transitioning my career to wealth management. I wanted to see if your managing director at any time. Right. And so that's what I did for a little while. And I had a connection at the printing firm who knew about this. It was a mentor of mine, and she had one of her good friends at Merrill Lynch who was looking for a junior broker at the time. And I didn't have a degree at that time, so I didn't have anything. This was just like a summer short-term thing. And so she got me an interview, and I got hired without a degree or basically like any family money or anything of that nature. So they're like, okay, all you have to do is cold call and bring in about $800K to $1 million a month, and we'll keep you. Oh, and pass like the series exam, the series 7, the series 66. If you don't, you're fired. But but have it. But here's some paperwork, all good. And so I got hired at Merrill Lynch as a junior broker, and I cold called my little butt off for years, and I became one of the top acquiring financial advisors in the nation for many years straight, and it was fun. It was super fun. It was super intense, and I learned so much about myself. I forgot this was supposed to be a short-term thing to get me to entrepreneurship, but I kind of ran this book of business as a business. I ran it. I was in charge of the clients. I bought the lists with my own money, and so I was totally out of pocket for so many things. A lot of like the client events and client dinners, and those were all out of pocket. And so I was super bought in. I cared so much, and I was just a junior broker, and so nobody really cared about me. But I tried so hard, and I grew my book. It was, I think, 32, 35 million under management in a few years, only through cold calling, and then I sold it. And then I started another company because I wanted to do good in the world in a more tangible way. I wanted to help women. I wanted to somehow help the environment. And I thought, sustainable period panties. And so that was my next business. I'm in the midst of selling that. But before that, I co-founded another tech company doing B2B SaaS. So kind of helping employees get better pay, better compensation, better benefits through negotiating with their employer. So, yeah.
Okay, so you guys, I've heard this story before, but every single time I do, I am just so impressed.
Wow.
One of the tenets that really sticks out to me, Connie, as you're speaking, and as I've talked to you about this before, there's a book that I read many years ago by Marie Forleo. It's called Everything is Figure Outable. And everything that you just walk through is like such an embodiment of that, right? You had absolutely no financial experience, but you were like, you know what? I'm going to be a top producer. I'm going to call until I have figured this out. I'm sure you didn't know anything about how to start a period panty business whenever you started doing that, or a SaaS business, and you just jumped in with both feet. And I think that that's something that is so admirable. And that's something that even if you fail, you're going to learn something that's going to put you in a position to be successful the next time. And it's a rare quality. And it's not something that, and I think women specifically, we really struggle with that, right? How do I jump in if I don't have a guarantee? Yes. So could you talk a little bit about some of the philosophy and some of the things that were running through your brain that gave you the confidence and the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out?
I think I'm really driven by passion. And I know that word is like kind of loaded in some sense. Some people think you have to have it. Some people think you don't have to have it. In my case, personally, I have to have it. I'm always driven by that positive emotion that like, no, I could really do something great, truly. And that's what drives me. And that outweighs for me the cons. Like, what if things go wrong? What if I have to move back home with my parents? What if X, Y, Z? I was like, no, I care so much about this mission that I don't really, that outweighs all the negativity that kind of could run through my head. And there are negative things for sure, especially as you get older, especially as you have more to lose. But I think I've always been driven by my values and the overall large goals I have for my life. And then that leads into professional goals as well.
I love that. And then, I think one of the things that really, really sticks out to me whenever you walk through, you're talking about passion and you're talking about just jumping in, right? It's really, really difficult to not have every tool in your toolbox and be able to just jump in and do it, right? And it's something that we're not taught. So I just think that and genuinely, people always talk about, like risk aversion and how women don't have as high of a risk tolerance as men do, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like we've lived, especially if you're a millennial, in this day and age, you've lived through so many tumultuous events that you've seen that just about anything can happen, right? And one of the things that people always ask me, Ginny, how in the heck are you an entrepreneur? Like, aren't you scared that you're going to fail? Aren't you scared that you're not going to make money next month? Like, wouldn't you just rather have a more secure job? And my answer is no, because of course there's a different stress that's associated with it. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for generating income, and and if I'm not making income, I'm responsible to go out and make it happen. I'm responsible for hiring and firing myself and I'm betting on myself rather than having someone else bet on myself. And I'm risking myself versus having someone else take a risk on me.
Yeah.
And to me, that just feels so much more secure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of the times when we are starting on our entrepreneurial journey, we all, you know, face challenges in our careers. Can you share, you know, some of the challenges that you face early on in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think similar to what Jenny discussed, it's kind of all on my shoulders. You know, I have friends, of course, that 9-to-5s, and I mean, I think it's a personality thing and perhaps risk tolerance thing as well, but there's nobody to, you know, give you a list of tasks every day. And if I choose not to work, if I choose not to do something that will put me closer to my goals, it's on me. And so I think that is a scary bit. I think the self-motivation thing is a bit difficult. I mean, I think it requires a specific type of personality set. I like the challenge, but I feel that there can also be loneliness in it, and there can also be like a whole mental like self-doubt thing if, you know, as the leader of a company, you're in charge of calling the shots. And I think I've developed over the years more confidence than I had before, but it's kind of hard sometimes when it's like, you know, I don't know if that's right, but I still have to do it. And a lot of people are counting on me. And if I make the wrong decisions, that's going to affect their lives. And so I think that there's a whole mental and emotional part of it that I find challenging, have found challenging, and perhaps still find challenging.
You know, this may not be the case for you, but I'm super curious. Like for me, I know that I can identify some pivot points in my career where, you know, I had a specific lesson that was, you know, from an event that took place. We've talked about already that failure is a part of success. Like there's just no getting around it. Is there something in your mind, or is there some time in your life where you failed that you felt like was a really pertinent, you know, catapult for you, you know, in terms of how you moved on from it and what you learned from it and how you know, started another company from it or got back on both feet from it?
Totally. I mean, I don't usually think of it in terms of failure. You know, when you're a salesperson, just starting from my first job, you know, you get no's most of the time, like almost all day. And same with cold calling. And I think that I learned pretty early on that, you know, if someone's mean to me or someone yells at me on the phone or to my face, it's really not about me. It's not like I'm personally a bad person and I should feel bad about this for the rest of the day. You know, maybe they had a bad day, maybe something happened that I don't really understand. But you know, I wish them the best, and it's really not about me. So I think failure happens a lot in entrepreneurship. I think it happens all the time. You know, as I went out to try to get investors, I got declined by almost everybody. You know, as I try to get new customers and clients, I get no most of the time. One specific incident, I think more black and white. I've done a number of pitch competitions. I've won one, but I remember one that I think I got second place, and I had worked really hard. I had a mentor. It was like a 15-minute pitch. It was super, and I was so nervous. There were like 200 people in person. So nervous. And I rushed through the whole pitch, and I feel like I didn't answer the questions properly because I was so nervous. And I didn't win. And so I guess that would be a failure. And I felt really bad about it. But then I learned, but a lot of good things happened. So it was part of a local pitch competition, and they had like a national pitch competition. So the winner of all the local chapters could go nationally, and they would win, I think, a cash prize at the end. I didn't win, but I made so many valuable connections from just like in preparation for the pitch, meeting with different mentors, getting different types of feedback from both the judges and my mentor. Even the judges that obviously said I, you know, didn't win, they gave me such valuable feedback, and I'm still in contact with some of them. And I thought it's not about winning or losing. I'm not, you know, this anymore, but it's just those connections. those kind of relationships that I hope to carry with me for the rest of my career, that are really the important, parts of that journey.
I love that. It's
Awesome.
so important to turn, a quote unquote failure, which, kind of is a dirty word, into a lesson, right? Like it's not a failure if there's a lesson attached to it. So that's amazing. And also I just, talking in front of people and, having a pitch of that nature, like I'm sure a lot of women struggle with nerves surrounding that. And I think we also just build the stakes higher in our mind as to what they actually are, and like forget about the learning potential. So that's amazing that you were able to take that with you.
Totally.
Yeah. And I want to touch upon now about, the different businesses that, you're creating. And I really find it, inspiring, and want to learn a little bit more about, how you come up with these business ideas and how do you identify those potential opportunities. Are there any specific trends or, criteria that help guide you throughout that process?
I think this is something I learned later on in career, and I wish I knew this earlier. I wish I knew this when I was 20, but it's important to be value led. And that's something I learned late, but to really have like honest conversations with myself. I have like these values cards or a bunch of tests online. Like, what do you value? Like, personally, and that will lead into your professional life as well. And be really clear about like the top 5, the top 10, what are non-negotiable values, and how is this business going to fall in line with those. I think that leading with that is really, really important. I don't know. I don't know that I like have a crystal ball. I know, which industry or which business is going to be successful. I look at what's exciting to me personally, and I talked with my second job as a financial advisor. I talked with a number of financial advisors, and I thought they were so cool. They were so personable and they were so friendly, but they were successful and knowledgeable. And, the people who introduced me to the company were women, and like the 2 women in the entire firm, that were advisors. So I really admired them at that point, and I wanted to be like them. And similarly in entrepreneurship, and I looked at the people in CPG, consumer goods. I looked at the people working on sustainable businesses, and I thought, wow, these people actually really, really care. I feel like they live by this, and they're genuine about this. There's a philanthropic element to it. And I thought that's the part that got me. There has to be something that is a personal tie, at least for me, to be able to push through all that, because entrepreneurship is really, really hard. It is really difficult, but absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Yeah. I love that. And, I think it's important to make the distinction that you're talking about. Like you mentioned passion earlier, and I know that's a word that gets thrown around. But I think it's helpful to think about it from the framework that you just described, which is value. Like, what value am I providing? And then you can feel good about that, and you can feel passionate about that. And that's what gets you through the tough times. And I love that, because I've never thought about it from that perspective and connecting the 2 dots. So thank you for that. Okay, so this is like the $1 million question, right? I feel like this is something, a lot of people have started businesses. And the statistics show that the success rates aren't that great as years progress. And sometimes when you feel like you're in the safety zone, you're really not, even if you've been in business for a while. And I think personally for me, what I see day in and day out with a lot of my clients and a lot of other entrepreneurs that I know, they really struggle to scale their business. And I've seen that you've been very successful at that in the past. And so there's a big difference between, having a business and it effectively running you and then scaling that business. So what are some of the things that you've internalized that have been helpful for you to scale businesses? And what would you suggest to other people who are kind of stuck in that messy middle rut?
Totally. I think first and foremost, to have be proud of like what you're putting forth. Like, having when I was a financial advisor, I did everything for my clients. I made sure that the financial plans were right, the investments were perfect. I made sure I was very, very careful. I outlined every meeting, and I was super careful and made sure that I provided quality services that I would be proud of. And because of that, I was able to get word of mouth referrals, and that my close rate for that, I'm sure, Michelle, but my close rate for those referrals were much greater, because it's like, their friend or their sister was, oh, my financial advisor is so cool. She knows her stuff. She's always prepared. And I think that's first and foremost, to provide quality service. And also, like in consumer goods, actually a physically good quality product. I mean, I've bought period panties from dozens of other competitors, and not all of them have thoughtfully put together their packaging, thoughtfully live by their values of being sustainable, or giving back to those who are experiencing period poverty or whatever. Really provide something that is well thought out and of the highest quality. So in scaling the CPG business, my sustainable period panties business, I relied a lot on my affiliates. So those were people, they were not huge influencers. This was still a very small startup. But I think what was really successful is having quality product, and then having somebody who was willing to talk about it to people who really trusted them. Hey, Horology is an amazing business. I've tried dozens of period panties. They all, fell apart in the wash. But this one, they answer their customer service emails within 24 hours. They go above and beyond. Their packaging is completely biodegradable. And then also maintaining those relationships over time, maintaining those relationships with the top affiliates, maintaining those personal relationships with my clients, not only the top clients, but any clients. You don't know who can refer you business.
Right.
And just, being a good products, good services, and then solid relationships over time.
I love that. It's really just, for lack of better terminology, for those of you that are in a sales-based business, which I would argue every single one of you are, you need to make sure that you are constantly, watering the plant, right? And making sure that you have a pipeline that is always full, and making sure just because your client has become your client and you've won the business doesn't mean that you stop serving them. And everybody that I have talked to, similar to what Connie is saying, they've all made sure to make sure that their client feels prioritized at all times. And that doesn't cost you anything. In a lot of cases, it's just having that touch and that personal connection and that relationship, and leading with that. And I would argue that that is what makes women better entrepreneurs in a lot of scenarios, is their ability to lead with relationship. And to continue to foster that. So I love that you said that. And I think that, the thing that sucks about that is so many people get impatient because they're like, this takes time. It takes time to build a relationship. But in reality, most good things take time. So
yeah, they really do. Yeah. And I think you gave, so much good advice today, especially for those who just started out on their journey or are looking to start their own business or even get into the financial advising industry. For our listeners out there who aspire to become these entrepreneurs, what advice can you give to them based on your experiences?
To become an entrepreneur, or I always think personal development is at the core of, I don't know, maybe my journey on this earth, and always thinking about how I can grow just as a human. And I think that'll lead into how, as I grow as a professional as well, if I keep working on myself, then I become a more authentic person, and I'm able to bring that passion to work. I think it's really important to, and this is a weird one, but I wish I knew this earlier, to not overly self-identify with work. I had that trouble as soon as I sold my first business. I was like, oh my gosh, who am I as a person? And so I really know. So I think it's really important. You don't hear this in business seminars or anything. At least no one told me. But to have those different facets of yourself, the health, the mental health, the physical health, all of that, whatever spirituality, make sure you have all of that and you're a complete whole person. Because I feel maybe for people of our mindset, being perfectionistic and very work oriented, it's easy to like overdo something and like give everything you have, and then you go back and you're like, oh wait, I haven't talked to my friends in like 3 months, and so longer. So personal development, and then also the list of values. Like just take a quiz, like, and be really clear about those, because I really think it can help. I think that career has always been so important to me. It's always been so important to be authentic, and it's hard to be there if, you don't know who you are, or you never took time outside of work to develop yourself as a person, which I am absolutely guilty of doing early on.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny. I'm obsessed with hobbies. Which is like, people used to think I was so weird because they'd be like, oh, you go so hard here and then you do all these other like random things. Like I took a job at a wine bar last year because I wanted to learn about wine. And like people thought I was crazy, but like at the end of the day, like you cannot just be all consumed with work. You have to have other things that interest you, other things that are interesting about you. The more interesting you are, the more inclined people are to engage with you. So I love that you said that as somebody who has a proven track record of success. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Connie, this has been fantastic. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did. We really appreciate you coming on the show and providing your insight with everybody. It means the world to us. And, we always want to provide value for our community. And as our community is largely women. And I think for me personally, I wanted to create a community of people who could, tap into resources, and you've provided so many of those. So thank you so much for coming on. We were thrilled to have you. This was fantastic. And for those of you who are listening, Michelle and I launched our newsletter this week. If you follow us on social, I hope you guys have been keeping up with our updates. We're very excited. We spent a lot of time putting this together to make sure that it was value packed for you guys. It's not going to be your run-of-the-mill boring newsletter. We have really curated it with you guys in mind. We're talking about, sommelier level picks of wine every single week that we're putting directly in your inbox, recommendations for where to go in New York City and in Austin, blog topics of the week, and timely current events. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our newsletter. We promise it's awesome. We wouldn't send anything that wasn't. And thank you guys for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. We do. And if you want to follow Connie on her journey, we'll tag her in LinkedIn on this episode. You could follow her on LinkedIn or reach out if you have any questions for her.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Of course. You're welcome anytime. We loved having you.
We did. Hey, happy Wine Wednesday, all.
Happy Wine Wednesday, you guys.